Jen, can I just say?
Sure.
The work that, I love this format. I love how it was pulled together with the ratings, the high and the low, and the comments coming in. I mean, I think you worked with Jane, but, you know, I think this is kind of the best formatting, just in my opinion, that we've had since we've been doing these types of reviews. So thank you for thinking through all of that just from a process standpoint.
Any other comments or questions for Jen or for Carolyn?
No, I think it's a great job. Again, I've been through many, God knows, I've been through many of these reviews here and there and everywhere, but this was probably the easiest. Probably I could have said more, but you know, what was said in the evaluation, you really didn't need to go into a whole bunch more. The administrator's job is the toughest one in the town. And I think every administrator that we've had or superintendent that we've had, it's a job where they want to do the job themselves and doesn't ask people for a lot of support and help because that's what they do. But we're here. I don't ever want to micromanage you. That's not my job. And I don't think that's any one of our job because that's why we hired you. And anybody we put in a position as Jen, you're there because we hired you because that's your job and that's what we expect you to do. So we appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you.
That is perfect because not everyone knows exactly what she does every day. And I think that she's involved in a lot more than really anyone imagines. So I really liked the format. I loved being able to give all the honest comments that I wanted. And I think it was so important to involve everybody that she sees every day.
And I think it was really interesting that there was a lot of repetition. I mean, I went through and I was like, oh, 9 of these comments are all saying the same thing, just in different people's voices. And so people definitely were all on the same page.
Do we want to vote to accept this performance evaluation?
I don't know if
Do
we
we
need
need
to.
to do that?
No?
I don't
Okay,
think we need to.
fine.
Yeah.
See why we would.
Okay. Well, thank you, Town
I
Administrator.
just have one
Good job.
recommendation, though. I would assume that we would be doing evaluations. It's fine that we did it now, but it was brought to my attention by somebody else that I talked to, somebody else. But anyway, that it should be like goes with the budget process. So that it should be, you know, on a July 1st to a June 30th type of thing, that not in the middle of the year, that it should be tied to monetary also, so that we know where we stand. I'm not sure if we're doing it on contract because of when you were hired, but I think, you know, on a fiscal type of thing that it should be done.
You're correct, and we're catching up from COVID.
Yep.
This is the first one we've had
It's
gotten done
correct.
for
So I'm
Carolyn.
just,
so-
I was just
But yes,
thinking that.
it should be on the other schedule. You're
on the-
absolutely
on the
correct.
fiscal area.
Yep.
So that's fine.
But we've gotten started,
Absolutely.
and we now have a plan, and
Yep.
we can carry forward with it easily instead of having to figure out what's needed to be done for this.
That's
So,
good. Thank you.
Yep.
So, I want to thank you. It was, you cannot not be nervous coming into a meeting like this and just wondering and like,
So take that to the Gazette.
but also, you know, like 2 weeks ago, right before the deadline of the 360, I said, I'm not going to get a good one after that conversation. So, you know, you kind of worry about it. So, but it's definitely really encouraging. So it's way better than I thought it was going to be. Just because, you know.
What are you hiding from us?
Well, you know, it's the things that you're trying to strive for, but you're not sure that it's going to get perceived that way. But this is showing me that, yes, and it is the support from everybody. You know, some of them I would love more feedback as to how to increase communication, to be more specific about how you want things communicated to you. And then also, you know, hearing from the staff that not being supportive of remote work, because that's not, I'm not really quite sure where that came from. I don't even know that I've had anybody come to me and ask me for it, and I've said no. So I need to reach out and try to get some more feedback of where that's coming from, because certainly there are times where I definitely understand if someone's has a deadline and can't be disturbed, and if you're the only person in your department and you're also having to, you know, answer a lot of questions throughout the day, there's a lot of value, I think, for certain things. So I will take that on to reach out to the staff to see, you know, where that might have gotten miscommunicated. But it's, you know, I haven't really looked at it line item by line item. But if there's anything that did rate on the lower side, to get more clarification from you, from the select board, especially the communication, because I did see that you wanted to hear more. So I would love just your feedback in the future. What would be more helpful?
And do you have all the actual detailed reviews that we did
I
individually?
don't.
I have them for her, but
Oh,
we
okay.
wanted to do this
Yeah.
first tonight. to-
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that might help,
Yeah.
yeah, with the
She's supposed to
details.
sign them, so I
Yeah.
guess she's going to get them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So, I was just going to say, I know the last sentence of mine, I think, is, you know, absolutely open to having a one-on-one if you choose to.
oh, good,
you know,
okay,
so-
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, and I'd be more than happy to do that. There's a couple of things that I think I've talked to you in the past, and it came up numerous times on that review. You spend a lot of your time putting out fires, and you have to decide which fire needs to go. And, you know, anybody that's in business knows what that's all about. The phone rings, this happens, that happens. I got to do this, and you drop that, and, you know, that's where, if you could figure out what's really important and how to pass some of that stuff on, your life would be a whole lot easier.
My initial response to a question or a crisis is Hadley going to get in trouble or someone going to get hurt?
Mhm.
So those always take priority,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, how far are you gonna let it burn?
Yeah, it's true. Very true.
No, this is really helpful, and Jennifer, this is just great, this presentation, it's really helpful. And I definitely want the staff to see this, so.
Yeah, I feel like it's
if
nice
we
and
can-
easy in
yeah,
PowerPoint.
that would
We
be
can send
great.
it out to whoever.
But again, we're trying to tell her, you know, everybody wants to do the one-on-one, everybody wants to have more communication, but that's time that she's having to give us that may be not necessary, and she needs to just pick and choose what is necessary for us to know that is not going to be brought up at a select board meeting. Because every time you think about contacting 5 people or whatever, that takes time out of the day that probably she has a lot more on her plate that she feels that she needs to get done than just, unless you just want her to shoot off an email or whatever. We can talk about how that communication goes, but to actually sit down with everybody every week and have that conversation, unless it's absolutely necessary, I'm not sure if it is.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah,
think,
no, I think
So-
that'd be kind
Yeah.
of unwieldy.
I
I
think,
think
Yeah.
just
yeah,
examples,
well,
just. yeah.
after you go through all the reviews, then if you know who said what, so if you got issues, just let us know, and we'll be more than
Okay.
happy to talk to you about them.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not just issues. If we gave you a 5 on something, you might want to know why we gave you a 5 on
Yeah.
something too, so.
Yeah,
As far as I'm concerned, I would have given you 5 on everything, but everybody tells me you can't get 5 in perfect, so you got to throw a few 4s in there,
thanks
so.
for sharing that choice.
Well, it's true. I mean, I'm honest.
you.
I don't have any flies on me, you know that, so that's
Oh,
right.
really?
Thank you, this was not a scary experience, like everyone told me it was going to be.
There's some stuff that I didn't rate, and then I put in the comments like, well, I'm not sure what to put here because I don't see you in your daily work. Like there were some questions about, you know, for us about like how you handle like your own employees and people in the building, and I was like, well, I've heard nothing but positive stuff, but I can't really rate this because I don't really see her on a day-to-day basis to see all of her daily interactions. So hopefully I didn't skew any data with that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's where the
happened a few
360
times.
helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I did the same
Yeah.
thing, because there's situations where I haven't dealt with you, so I just said, can't answer this.
So we need to put an NA as an option.
Yes, I'll do that next time.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
All right.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Moving along. Flag flying policy. Molly, you want to pick this up?
Sure. So I know Jennifer put in some examples from other municipalities. So I don't think the expectation was that we were going to come up with a policy tonight, but just we brought this up before because for those of us who went to the Mass Municipal Conference, they actually hit this as a highlight for municipalities to address. So basically, the Commonwealth is encouraging all municipalities to have a flag flying policy, primarily because the city of Boston, we're not Boston, but the city of Boston got involved in litigation that was taken all the way to the Supreme Court. So you can only imagine the legal fees involved in the municipality having to deal with something like that. So they highlighted, anybody can Google that and find out the outcome. But what it underscored was that we live in a very expressive society, and people, in a good way, want to participate. They want their feelings to be known. But you need to be really careful about what is the voice of the local government versus, a group of individuals who may desire to have their voice heard. So tonight in board docs, there are examples of some, from what some other municipalities have done to address the issue. So I was hoping that maybe we could take a look at that and everybody think about it. And, I think we should adopt a policy, so.
So I'd just like to back up a little more on the details of the case that we heard about at MMA, was that they have a flagpole that they fly flags when people request, and they had never not approved a request. Somebody said, I want to fly a flag, and the flag went up for a certain period of time. And then they flew a flag and someone objected to it. And that's where the issue came. And was this really a statement of what the town meant? Because it was a religious symbol. So then that's where the whole court case happened. So we need to figure out what we want to allow to fly on our flagpole.
There's actually a law of separation of state and religion, right? So, that kind of goes with, but I anything saying we're going to bring it up at the next or whatever, we're going to do it. I like what's outlined here in the articles. I did have a chance to review it, so.
Okay, Amy?
Yeah, I was gonna say that what I really appreciated about, because I did look at all these, and I really appreciated one, that there was an application process to it. Because I think sometimes people think, well, yes, we're the voice of the town, but we're here for the town. So I like the application process, and I like that there was finality in them. Because I think, all the negative comments that I received in regards to why this came up for us in the first place was, we only did it because we were hopping on the bandwagon and, acting like we're just a bunch of woke people. So I think moving forward, something that I really do want to see is a finite date. If we did decide to do something, that it was only, I think in Boston it was 24 hours. In other ones there was, specific finite dates for the removal of it. And I think that's another issue that we're kind of seeing right now.
All right, so we should put this back on the agenda, have time to read it, review it, and figure out what we're going to do. So March
good.
1st.
Are those enough for you to see, or do y'all want more towns? Belchertown has one that they're still working on in Boston. The one that's on there for Boston is actually not the most current one, because they're still actually working on it.
Yeah.
So I put the one they had.
I would like to see what smaller towns are doing. I mean, cities are really different than Hadley.
Right, okay, I can
Yes-
try to
Yes and
find.
no, Jane.
Well, the legal implications are the same.
Yeah, right, people are people, whether there's millions or thousands. You still have differences of opinion, and that's really what matters.
I can try to find some smaller towns too.
Okay.
I think
I think
Deerfield.
Dayton's pretty small, for sure.
Yes, and their bylaw is like this. It's a bylaw so tiny. I was like, best one ever. There we go.
Yeah, I don't think we need to have a huge amount of reading to do on this, but just general ideas so that we can then go forward and make our ideas.
Okay.
All right. All right. All right, Sue Oppenheimer.
Hi, my name is Sue Oppenheimer. I've lived at Hadley Housing Authority for years, and I've worked to create a healthier, more functional, less oppressive place to live for both the elderly and disabled in a broken housing system. I gave you a packet at one time, a week or so ago. I would ask you if you would please rewatch January 31st, 2023, a Hadley Housing Authority Board meeting, if you would. I'm here tonight to ask the Town of Hadley Select Board to recall tenant board member Reese Freed. I would like maybe about 4 minutes or so and hit the highlights of what I think is why I came to this conclusion. Our tenant representative, Reese Freed, was chosen by the Town of Hadley Select Board. This was Reese's very first board meeting, was on September 27th, 2022. From the very beginning, she has exhibited herself to be aggressive, controlling, and lacking empathy. I feel that Reese is not at all tenant-oriented, and her allegiance appears to be focused on the business of management. Bare bones is good enough for the tenants appears to be her clarion cry. 3-minute public speak, enough, bam, time's up. It's not in our bylaws. Tenants have all, in board meetings have basically been able to speak a certain amount of time without any time restriction. This is a quote, no venting, complaining, expressing of grievances. Restated that the board should direct tenants to file grievances, even though she is well aware that tenants' grievances are practically never heard, and we do not even have a legitimate grievance board. Reese does not advocate for tenants who are shut out of board meetings when they are 100% virtual. Some tenants are completely illiterate as far as computers go. Some tenants lack smartphones and computers. When Amherst Housing took us over, both the old computers and the Wi-Fi service in our community room disappeared. Reese replied, just get any old desktop for the tenants. She does not advocate for tenants who request in writing to be put on the board agenda and do not get on the agenda. If a tenant requests a reasonable accommodation, such as a handicap shower, her response was, a reasonable accommodation for a tenant just needs to be reasonable and does not have to be as requested by a tenant. On more than one occasion, Reese cut down the Golden Court Tenants Association, even though she was not even living there when the tenants organization was active. I find Reese to be very litigious. She stated on a November 22nd, 2022 board meeting, a board member can file a 121B, a letter of complaint and misconduct and dereliction of duty against another board member. Well, she did just that. She filed open meeting law violations against 2 of her fellow board members while only serving on her board for 3 months. At this same November 22nd, 2022 meeting, restated, if the Town of Hadley Select Board interferes with the HHA and Amherst Housing Authority business, this will be actionable. and state law prohibits this interference. Reese attended a Town of Hadley Select Board meeting with management without even discussing this with other board members. They had no idea that she was attending this meeting. If tenants act out at meetings, she yells, "Kick them out, call the police." December 20th, 2022 board meeting, Reese did not defend her fellow board members when management falsely stated that 2 board members refused to participate in today's board meeting due to misinformation. The board members had valid reasons why they chose not to attend this meeting. She stated, "The board must do their job. It is unacceptable." Once again, no allegiance to her fellow board members. January 31st meeting, which is the one I hope that you peek at, Reese told a board member that he did not have the capacity to chair a Hadley Housing Board meeting because one of the board members was giving up the chairmanship. Whoever was elected, I don't think I'm allowed to use names, but the board member that was chosen as the new chair, she said to him, "You don't have the capacity to be the chair. I don't see you as a viable chairman. I wish I wish the chair to continue." "When does your term end?" she said to this man who is now our new chairman. "It's inappropriate for you unless you make a commitment to run again." She brought up bogus tenant survey that she passed around to tenants door to door. She chose to exclude some tenants. She distorted facts in order to get tenants to sign, such as, "If tenants lose Amherst Housing, you will lose your services. Director Mary Billiam will lose her job if it is not continuously managed by Amherst Housing." She did not discuss the survey with her fellow board members, and she acted as an agent for the Hadley Housing Authority management. I am putting myself in jeopardy tonight, I feel, because vocal, knowledgeable, involved tenants in all the years I lived at Golden Court have been the ones that are always targeted by management. Many tenants live there. They have no idea what's going on. Many tenants live in fear. Notices to quit or threats of notices to quit are handed out like M&Ms. So that's all I have to say tonight. So please consider what I asked, which is to recall tenant board member Reese Freed. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Comments, discussion?
Is there a process for this, or?
So there actually is, the Division of Housing and Community Public Housing, HCDC?
Yep.
Okay. MGL Section 121B, 6. A select board can remove a member appointed, elected by the municipality, including tenant board members who are appointed, but there has to be a formal hearing and an opportunity for the board member to defend themselves. Section 6, the mayor or city council or board of selectmen may make or receive written charges against, and the mayor, with the approval of the city council or the board of selectmen, as the case may be, may accept the resignation of any member of a housing authority or redevelopment authority appointed or elected by such city or town, or may, after the hearing, remove any such member because of inefficiency, neglect of duty, or misconduct in office, provided that such member shall have been given not less than 14 days before the set date for such hearing, a copy in writing of the charges against him, and written notice of the date and place of hearing to be held thereon, and at the hearing shall have been given the opportunity to be represented by counsel and to be heard in his defense. The mayor and city council or board of selectmen may also make or receive written charges against any member of the housing or redevelopment authority in such city or town appointed by the department, and refer the same to the department, which may proceed in the same manner as the mayor and city council. Pending final action upon any such charges, the officer or officers having the power to remove such member may temporarily suspend him provided that they shall immediately reinstate him in office if they find such charges have not been substantiated, and may appoint a person to perform the duties of such suspended member until he is reinstated or until he is removed and his successor is qualified. In cases of any such removal, the removing authority shall forthwith deliver to the clerk of the city or town attested copies of such charges and of its findings thereon, and the clerk shall cause the same to be filed with the certificate and duplicate certificate required to be filed with the department and the state secretary under section 5. So it says we can have a public hearing in which all of the charges against the board member that we appointed as tenant representative can be heard, and she has the opportunity to come and bring counsel and anyone she wishes to defend her. Do we want to take that kind of action?
I don't think we want to do it just yet. I have a question for Sue. Is this just your opinion, or are there other people in Golden Court that will agree with your assessment?
That's my version.
I understand it's your version, but
And there's only three or four of us that have ever been involved in going to board meetings in Golden Court. We had a tenants organization at one time, but that ended a while back. So right. But
Okay.
coming from board members' mouths too, they're the ones that have to deal with her at the board meetings, and I've never been so horrified of what I see, the lack of respect to her fellow board members is just something that I've never seen the likes of, and I think it's horrifying.
okay, and all these meetings are recorded, correct?
Yes, well, I don't know how far back, maybe 5 months we've been recorded,
Okay, but she's only been,
and she's been on since, I think, 4
September.
or 5 months now, yeah.
That's when we appointed her.
okay. So I would recommend that we at least watch the meetings and get a feel for if we agree with
Right.
this or not.
I'd
And
like
then
to
we
hear
can
from
take it up.
the other elected,
Other board members.
other board members too.
Do we want to, well, we have one here tonight. Do we want to
There's
invite them
four
all
others,
in?
there's three others.
That's what I'm saying. Do we want to invite them all in to
Yeah.
speak at one
Yes,
time? Okay,
I believe we should.
all right.
Yeah, definitely. This is an open hearing, and they
Yes.
should participate for us to make any
Mhm.
real determination on what we
Yeah.
should do.
So I just want to clarify, are you asking for, the hearing is formal, but you want to hear more information? I just want to make sure we follow the right process as far as what can be said outside of the hearing
Well, I think
if she can't be here.
But I think there's a missing link here that
People can file a complaint with her, right?
you could file a complaint, yes.
Yeah.
But I
So
think-
we could,
But she needs, I think,
essentially, could it, go ahead.
there's in my brain here, it's thinking there's a missing link of the protocol of legally notifying the person of what's happening, and I think we need to do that. I would like counsel to chime in on this, please,
I certainly agree with that.
Yeah, I do.
before we,
Yeah,
let's have them tell us what we
I
need
have
to
the
do.
email started.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
and then maybe at our next meeting,
We can
we
decide
can
how to move
decide
forward.
if we
Correct.
want to hold that
Yeah.
Correct.
hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, with all due respect, anybody can file a complaint if they want to, so we don't want to just start saying, yeah, okay, you've got a complaint, we're going to have a hearing, blah, blah, blah. We need to do our homework, and then if we feel that your concerns are
Justified.
legitimate, then we will act.
Sure,
You know,
sounds great.
Just because there's a process,
Right,
Thank you.
legally, we're bound.
yes.
All
All
right.
right, thanks, Sue.
Is that your water, Sue?
Yes, it is.
All right. Green Community application is not quite ready. They will be here March 1st, and this time it will be ready to go, and hopefully we will soon be the recipients of ability to get lots of energy grants. All right. Surveyors services disclosure. Mr. Iser.
Yes, I am on the DPW Facilities Feasibility Committee, and we decided at our last meeting that we need a survey of the property that the existing DPW building is on, and my company has done extensive work in the area, and I figured I could do the work for less money than anybody else. And the issue of conflict of interest came up, so I called the Ethics Commission, and they told me as long as I filled out the appropriate paperwork, that I could do the work. So I have the paperwork filled out. I will file it with the town clerk tomorrow. So just to make people in the town aware of what's going on.
Super.
Thank you.
Well done.
All right.
Thanks.
Carolyn, are there any highlights you want to hit for us?
Sure, I actually do have a written one if you want
Okay,
to take a look at it.
perfect.
But one of the reasons is because there's a couple dates that I just want to make sure you have. The next select board meeting is on the 22nd.
Which is
and-
next Wednesday.
Yep, so that will be a preliminary budget presentation with the Finance Committee.
When did that get posted? When did we decide that?
After you left the meeting last week.
That was in executive session, you decided?
No.
No,
No.
no.
No,
Because
we have to, in budget time, budget cycle, sometimes we have to sneak in a meeting to get things done, to get that warrant ready.
Yeah, but that wasn't on there before you went into executive session. I stayed until executive session went into session, and there was no,
From 2
Discussion
weeks-
on
From
the-
2 weeks ago? Yeah, I think we probably did it afterwards.
it was afterwards, because it wasn't.
No, I don't mean after, they didn't,
I don't
this
know,
wasn't a
did we-
decision, this is a chair's decision, speaking with me and Linda,
We-
that we need to get
we
this in
wanted-
here.
we had
Yes, this
talked
was
about
not
needing
discussed.
to have in our, which comes up next after this, under goals. We talked about needing department meetings and more information on finance
Earlier on in the process.
early in the process. So I
So
requested a finance.
it's only
committee.
going to be that, as well as the finance team and with the assistance of Susan Glowatsky, has worked on a water and sewer rate recommendations that we're going to fine tune this week and next week. But we'll have those recommendations ready for you to look at. But we will have to do a water and sewer rate hearing as the commissioners.
Right, it's
on March
informational
1st.
for us.
So informational's on the 22nd, March 1st would be the hearing. And we have to have 2 weeks' notice for that.
Just add it to my calendar.
Sorry. Can I change my review? Okay.
That's part of what
There's-
we want, remember?
Yeah.
So that should be
Yeah.
a good thing.
Okay, all right. So there's just a couple agreements that are uploaded. I've attached the agreement between the town of Hadley and Collins Center for the HR classification, compensation, and succession plan. I wanted you to have a copy of that. The Powers and Sullivan Auditor Service Contract, who Linda has been working with to do all of our auditing services for the June 30th of 23, 24, and 25. That's also, that contract's there. And as the last meeting, you heard from CEI, the engineers, about the administrative consent order for Algonquin Drive. We have engaged engineering services from them, but the whole scope of work is in that, which is what you didn't have last week. The Hawk Signal Public Forum, you should be in those correspondence, working with Mass DOT. They would like a preliminary planning meeting for that hearing, so that they proposed that, so we'll continue to work out when that date will be for the preliminary meeting. And then I will have a draft of the ATM warrant, annual town meeting warrant for the March 1st select board meeting. I'm just still waiting for a couple placeholders for some of those articles. And the accounting contract, I'm going to update this right now, is you know that Melanson was bought out by Markham. And so I met and invited Linda to speak with Tanya Campbell from now Markham to discuss next year's contract, because we still didn't have the funding for that. So when I was writing this, I did not have a response yet from them, and I do have one, but I'm going to have another opportunity to talk with her, because I think we could sharpen the pencil a little bit. It came a little higher than I had thought, so I'll have more updates with that.
And we're still willing to look at a non-in-house accountant.
an in-house accountant, not a non.
This would be an in-house account.
No, this Melanson right here,
Right.
that is who we contract out with.
Right.
So you're saying an in-house, yes, I'm always looking. I'm always looking.
Okay, so about the town meeting warrant that you say you'll have for March 1st,
Yeah.
but I see I am still waiting for placeholders. Don't worry if those placeholders aren't full, just get us what you've got so that we can look at it. And we understand, you know, in part of the review, you don't need to be perfect on this, right? Get it, and we can start looking at it, and we can offer feedback if appropriate, and we can help.
Yeah.
Jessica also reminded me today when I talked to her about the committees that March 31st is the drop dead date for saying anything that has to be on the annual ballot. So if any of our town meeting questions are going to require an override vote, anything that's asking for money that's 2/3, or anything else that we think of, she needs to know by March 31st.
So clarification, not for 2/3, you mean if it's over 2.5? Is that what you're asking?
Anything that needs a vote, a ballot box
Ballot
vote,
vote.
A ballot box, I don't foresee anything.
but just keep it
Yeah,
in
I would,
mind.
yeah.
Can I just ask about the last report? I think you mentioned the dike.
Yes. Oh, it was that sub-zero day, so we didn't do the visit. So that's
Okay,
this,
so the
thank you,
visit
thank you.
didn't
That's this Friday. It's been
Okay.
rescheduled, yeah. It was, I think, what was it, 10 below that day?
Yeah.
I think that was a good choice.
really glad they
That was
canceled.
a good choice.
Yeah, we would, and it was very windy. I would not want anyone going over the dike. Yeah, thank you.
And I hope the minutes reflect the fact that my esteemed colleague, Mr. Iser, gave you permission not to be perfect.
I'll remember that.
All right. Our goals, there is a list here of things that the select board has said that we are interested in pursuing, and it's a fairly large list, so I would like to prioritize them somehow. Now, we're already done the board and committee recommendations, so that's can come right off of there. Joint board meetings, we've added the Finance Committee to meet with us. Are there other things that we should be putting on this?
Yeah, I'd sent on communications, and I apologize, I remembered about 3 o'clock this afternoon that you asked me to draft something. So I did send something around via email today.
I didn't
just for
see
people.
my email.
Yeah, so just for people to look at, that was the communication ones, and I bulleted out just some ideas for discussion. So I was wondering if maybe it would be all right if I met with Carolyn, talk that through with her, and then
That'd be
bring that
great.
back,
Yeah.
That works for me.
if that's okay. And like joint meetings I threw under there
Okay.
too, so.
All right, entertainment licenses, we were talking about the broader scope of entertainment
Right.
licenses. How do we want to proceed with that?
So tomorrow morning, Jennifer, Dee Dee, and myself are going to take a look at what we have currently and see how we can try to improve upon it, and then we can bring that back here and talk about it.
Excellent. Housing,
So on that one, the Housing and Economic Development Committee, we're meeting tomorrow night. And we went on hiatus while the housing production plan was being developed. So we're just kind of regrouping, and part of the agenda is to talk about possible next steps. And Bill Dwyer's on that committee, so that's kind of the tie between the select board and the planning board as well. So, because he's great about saying this is what we're already doing, or this is what we're talking about. And then I'm thinking that depending on the outcome of that meeting, or maybe the next couple of meetings, we'll in all likelihood want to come back here to say this is what we're talking about, this is what we're thinking, and make sure that select board and I'm assuming planning board will want to say, yeah, like keep going or whatever.
okay? Enhanced revenue, always a good topic. How are we going to get more money? Where do we even, will we do that with Finance Committee? Will we do that with, where
I can-
does that?
You can start in a small working group, there's ways. You might have to spend money to get some, but I think I think Hadley has very good opportunities to increase revenue.
And so what does the select board need to do to encourage that to happen?
Part of it does fall under housing and economic development, right? Because if
Okay.
there's the, when you think about the bottom line, right?
Taxes.
Or I should say top line, you can increase, you can,
Amy, if you turn your camera off, we'll be able to hear you better. Although it looks like she might be gone.
No,
She's still there.
just still there.
See, just-
Why is mine different?
So just what we're talking about is, like we did the fee review, so we already have revenue, and then, or we're talking about rates, right, water and sewer rates. So
Right.
those are existing revenue streams. Then there are possible new revenue streams. And then you can also look at increasing the tax base itself. So you're not increasing necessarily individual property taxes, but you're bringing more taxable stock into the town. So that piece of it, I think, that's part of our focus on the housing and economic development. And then, like Carolyn said, maybe a work group handling.
And in the
Yeah,
past,
with the building inspector being involved with that too, and what's going on with building, and planning is in with building, and so, I mean, it's all connected.
Yep.
And you'll hear about some of that with the budget presentation. There are
and we
a couple
also had
positions.
talked, not recently, but I know a couple of years ago, there was conversation about hiring a economic planner, or I don't know what the technical term is, but someone who was going to look at how the town could develop and improve the economics. Somebody in a planning position who had that kind of information.
Well, you do have the Pioneer Planning Commission that does work with us on that also. So, I mean, it's kind of money spent on where we want to spend the money on another position. You're talking about an accounting person in-house, that's money. Now you want an economic development person in-house. I mean, you got to really
We got to look at.
prioritize and see
Right,
what
exactly.
we really want in-house, and preferably it would be cheaper having somebody accounting and then hiring a firm from outside, but they're not always a lot out there.
Always finding someone who wants to work seems to be an issue for everybody
Well,
these days.
nobody wants to work nowadays, that's pathetic.
But yeah, I mean, Jane, I agree, it's all tied together, right?
Right.
And we may get to a point where, there's only so much you can do again with these volunteer committees, and having somebody who eats, sleeps, and breathes this stuff all day long. So, again, that, we're just going to try to keep moving things forward as best we can, but
Right.
ultimately the town could certainly benefit.
Yeah, and I think, to increase the tax base, we're pretty much limited to Route 9, or at least the business districts, and Route 9 is the most intense business district we have, and got to figure out how to do some infill or something like that, so that we can bring stuff in that will help to raise our tax base and not necessarily encourage people with children to come in. And I don't mean to be rude, but that, we know how that all works. with
Well,
the,
population is down. I mean, if
Right,
you-
we
if-
have room in the
We've got
schools.
plenty of room
If
in
you,
the
if you look,
schools.
I mean, if you saw what Dr. McKenzie put together for what our school choice kids are, what we're sourcing out, what we're bringing in, and what we have, I mean, you can see it. I mean, Hatfield's facing, they had a big article in the paper about down in enrollment. I mean, people aren't having kids like they used to, so everybody is feeling the crunch on numbers going down, and yet you still have to provide a great education to bring kids in, to have school choice, which is our revenue also for what the school brings in, and basically, they've really been good partners with us on sharing their monies with us, so I
Yes.
mean,
And I talked to Dr. McKenzie a couple of days ago, and 1 in 4 students is non-Hadley.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's nice for Hadley's budget because they bring in more. So that's
But I think
useful.
the point Randy raises is and again, this is where data is really important too, is that there certainly is a consequence to increasing housing in Hadley. You know, pressure on infrastructure of whatever, whether it's park and rec or whether it's police and fire or, you know, water and sewer. So all of that, and that's where actual planners are far better suited to have those conversations than we are, but at least we can try to keep teeing it up.
Right, and we can keep.
Well,
you know,
that's one of the things, though, that the planning board has asked for, you know, past several years, is they would like a planner to come in and us hiring somebody for planning. And that would benefit them because, as we talked about with their longevity that they have on the board, they're not going to be there forever either. And they
Exactly.
have the most wealth of knowledge in this town of what goes on and what comes in and what goes out. So, you know, they're our seed, actually.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, move it.
Classification update, I understand that's being worked on.
The classification compensation?
Yes.
This is- I
We're,
was asking
Yes.
we're signing the contract.
Okay.
I finally got the contract from them, so.
All right, so that's continuing. The Russell School Plan, we have heard, and it's coming back to us when we meet with the Municipal Building Committee and the Russell School to talk about what they're doing. And we have asked them, when they presented to us, to make a preparation so that the town has the choice of a vote at the town meeting at the warrant for the CPA money, and they're going forward with looking at that. And employee handbook.
But there's one thing I
Yes, I'm
didn't
sorry.
like about that Russell School survey is that they took more into consideration of people that don't live here in Hadley. And the percentage that they projected from in-house was not as great as what was projected from people that don't live here.
Right.
And I didn't like that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but town meeting's going
And
to make the
people
final
in town
decision.
didn't like it either. Maybe they didn't participate, yes,
Mhm.
and that's their own fault. But I'm certainly not going to make a decision on Russell School based on what people traveling on Route 9 are saying to us. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen.
I hear you, and I think that, as what Randy just said, that town meeting is going to be given a choice to vote what to do, and they will be presented with the survey.
And that's not
results.
even good enough either, because there's always only 100, 140 people out of 5,000 that come to town meeting.
Well, then
And I
I-
don't think that's
Well,
that's right either.
Yeah, this might be different though, Joyce, because there's a lot of money on the line, and that
Yeah.
typically will bring people out. But you're right, there's never enough to justify the vote usually.
Right.
Put it as a ballot item?
Say that again, Amy?
Can you put it as the ballot item?
She should do the Charter Spectrum survey for sure.
It, it will just be a town, it will be a town meeting.
Ballot survey.
But we've already done the survey, and now we're trying to keep moving with this. And so they have done a survey, and the next step is to take it to town meeting and see if they will approve CPA money to do what they would like to do. And the town will either say yes or no, and then if the town says yes, then that's one direction. And if the town says no, the select board needs to say, as Joyce would say, what's going on next, because the town has said no, we don't want to, if the town says no, then we have to be ready to say, this is what has to happen.
But so just the point that Amy was making, if somebody on town meeting floor, which isn't going to happen until May
Third,
3rd, wanted to amend
I was
it.
gonna say spring ballots.
Right, Amy, but in order to get it on the ballot, I was just going to go back to, it sounded like Jessica was saying that anything that was going to go on the ballot would have to be decided by March 31st.
yes.
So, yeah. that would have to happen before there was even any conversation at town meeting, just from a timing standpoint.
But we could make that decision and put it on the ballot for voting.
What would we
Are
ask?
you talking about a non-binding
Non-binding
question?
referendum, yeah.
Yes.
So you would have those two votes at the same town meeting. You could have them support yes, the CPA, or no CPA, and you could have an opposite vote with a non-binding question. So
Yeah.
it's a little,
Yeah. And CPA hasn't voted on this yet.
right. And the discussion will come up during the CPA article. I think you will solve both, I don't want to say problems, both questions in that one article.
Yeah.
But I think Amy's point is, and Joyce's point is, that's a town meeting, and if we're lucky, the biggest town meeting I've ever seen was either with the fire station in the elementary school or the new library and senior center, when we were lucky if we had 600 people.
Right.
But I think the CPA article will bring that.
You
It's
think-
almost the same thing. You're almost duplicating the question.
Well, I think-
If they support to fund CPA, that the voters are voting to support the Russell School.
Exactly.
So I don't think you need that non-binding question. It's going to get answered on how that vote goes.
Right.
And that's on the 27th, CPA?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
It's soon.
All right. And the last thing is the employee handbook, which is being worked on. Is that correct?
It's Jennifer, I think, sent it to Labor Council today.
Excellent. All right. Announcements.
Okay, so unfortunately, tonight I have 3 passings. I have Anthony Krzaskovic. He was a former Hadley resident. He was from Chicopee as he passed, but he was originally from Hadley. We have Margaret Kelsch, whose son Michael and daughter-in-law Heather live here in town with grandson and granddaughter. She loved watching Robert at church serve and play his trumpet. So, she was quite a advocate for her grandchildren. Tim Barstow passed away. He was the owner of Cedar Reach Farm, horse farm on Lawrence Plain Road. Had many children come in and out of there for a number of years, teaching them how to ride and have fun on the ranch, so he was good at that.
I spent 12 years riding there.
Pardon? You
I
did?
spent 12 years riding there.
There you go, perfect. And he leaves behind Karen Regish, who they have been together for 32 years, so our condolences to everyone's family from the select board. That's all I have.
Anyone else?
Do you want
No,
to
ma'am.
say about your,
I have a couple of things. One is to remind people that annual elections for the town of Hadley and public offices will take place, and you need to take out papers at the town clerk's office. There's a list of positions that are up this year on the town website, and those papers need to be taken out and filed by mid-March. Well, maybe the 20th of March, something like that. Also, the senior center is going to have a fundraiser, a roast beef dinner to go, which is being prepared by the famous cooks at the Legion. Tickets are available either at Town Hall or at the senior center.
when is this happening?
This is March 19th, and it's $25 for basically a pound of roast beef, baked potato, salad, and dessert.
Best food ever.
Really?
Meat and potatoes.
Gonna have a tater.
Anything else? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Roll
Roll
call
call
vote. Roll call vote. Chungalo,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Nevin Smith,
Yes,
Parsons,
Yes.
Iser.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you all.